Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into another video. Today we're here to talk about lore once again. And I do want to apologize for the fact that you are looking at this picture right here. You're probably thinking, why would that be a problem? This picture is not actually the picture that it's meant to be on this page. But if I go here, for example, copy and then paste it and go, the picture doesn't load. So I manually changed the picture to be the last Chronicles picture there was. However, I do not want you guys to be confused, though, even though this is the Chronicles of Paladins. It is not the main Chronicles line. So this is like a second timeline, one where things are a bit different. They don't actually, it's an alternative, the echoes, essentially that's it, but for the Chronicles. So, today we're going to be looking through this text and try to understand what story that they got for us, which is supposed to be for the Masquerade event, the Shattered Moon Masquerade event, which technically speaking is from the Midnight Masquerade, but they gave it two different names, God knows why. And then we're going to try to understand it and see how amazing the story is. This was also done by the Evil Mojo team. It will be on the category of lore. You can actually press there and go into the section of lore, and you'll have some stuff already here. All right, so you can find all of it right here. These are all Chronicle lines except for this one. This is a Chronicle of the second version 2.0, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Let's get right through it. And the first thing they were greeted with is the explanation is for this, this extra version, this alternative version of the Chronicles. Rifts are stories from alternative versions of the realm. So instead of, we're just going to call it a rift. Instead of being a Chronicle, we're just going to call it a rift to make it easier for everybody. One where the characters explore themes from Paladins past and future, or first takes place at the Grand Shattered Moon Masquerade, a night of grandeur and excitement hosted by the Magistrate. However, a Harbinger walks among them, waiting for the opportunity to strike. So we already can tell this is going to be based on the characters we have right now on the latest event pass, which would be Corvus. Then obviously Vora, closer here to the end. And also apparently some little bit of an appearance by Caspian. And actually this is the original one. Which, by the way, these two skins can only be purchased directly by 800 crystals each right now on live servers. So if you are actually planning on waiting for it to go cheaper, you would have to wait for the patch to go over and then it going into chests or something. I know that you probably seen the trailer saying that it was on the diamond chest, but that is actually a mistake. Let's read. As the sun sets, travelers from far and wide gather to celebrate Corvus' final ascent to Grand Magister. After years of dedication to his countership, he is finally prepared to take his father's place at the helm of the Magistrate. To celebrate, a display of power and prosperity was arranged, the Shattered Moon Masquerade. These events are commonplace now. Corvus insists the best way to celebrate is to have a night where he can dance with whoever he pleases. With them none the wiser it was him. However, this was no ordinary masquerade, which is the reason Vora had to attend this affair. Sure, the ambience was immaculate, and she was right in her element. Party goers can barely muster words after she can display her ballet routine. Though the fashion and glamour were very her, she was here for one thing and one thing only. The object of her devotion. A fallen shard of the moon housed deep within the archives. Normally far out of reach, but tonight, that's where the main event is. Ha! She arrived at the ball promptly on time, not out of necessity, but for flair. Nothing was more satisfying than commanding the attention of strangers, only to disappear at the last moment. Sure, it could be considered cruel, but that's for her therapist to deal with. Besides, there was a whole night ahead of them. she could at least entertain herself for a while, maybe even meet the man himself before she robs him blind. She made her way through the grounds, taking the hand of any stranger brave enough to ask for hers. She'd often outmove them. Thoughts at times she'd struggle due to the knowing what they were saying. She wasn't going to let a silly language barrier stop her from flattering others. It was during these exchanges of pleasantries and flirts that she ran across a concerning sight. Caspian. Anyone would recognize his forward appearance from miles away. Normally, she'd be excited to chastise the thief, but tonight was her night and he better not be working. So, just up until now, there's a party. Vora's going to steal Corvus, which Corvus is actually in this reality is going to be the one taking over of the magistrate. And then she actually spots Caspian, which leads her to think Caspian is a thief, so he's going to be here and he's going to try to steal the same thing as me, which is actually a shard from the moon. So let's continue. As she attempted an approach to inform him of his compulsory time off, the clock struck midnight and the game had begun. Corvus revealed himself among those in the crowd. Not that it was difficult. The lovable fool insists on always wearing a crow mask. Does he know? Besides the point, he slowly strolls to the heart of the archives, his claim to fame, and where he will be crowned. Crowds of people follow him, enough that people could get lost in. How tragic! Vora slips her way past the enamored guests and went to the library that resides within. These books hold so many secrets across the realm, so many opportunities to blackmail those who dare threaten her way of life. Yet she was here only for what lies in the middle of the room, basking in the light it once fell from. A shattered moon, that which held the being she adored so deeply. This shard, it could perhaps draw her closer, allow her to discover a way, any way, to be with her. As she reached out for her prize, blasts rang from outside and soldiers began to shout. Over the commotion, she heard exactly what she feared. Caspian had caused an absolute display, snatching the commemorative sword that was to be given to Corvus, and now was dashing his way out of the keep. With a groan and a flick of the wrist, Vora grabs the shard as even more sirens begin to blare. If he wasn't going to be careful, then why should she, right? She begins to saunter out of the catch of glimpse of Corvus chasing after the thief, almost looking as if he's enjoying the drama, the added drama. All this realm cares about is themselves. Alas, she is no different. Luckily, with Caspian making a fool of himself, her exit is as simple as a tendril up and over the external wall. She would head back home, a lovely hut where she styled outfits for damsel devour her herself, and set the shard of the moon on her bedside table neatly. Her obsession had been quelled, for now. You can't expect her to stay satisfied long. She's much too accomplished for that. So, there you go. It's a very simple one. It's just a little bit of a story. It would actually be a cool event sort of gameplay mission. I'm not gonna lie. Where you would have to play Vora specifically and just go around the crowd and just try to hide. And then you would have to time the moment of the robbery with the explosions and the sounds of the sirens to then steal a shard and then have to make your way away from the magistrate's archives, etc. But essentially, if you didn't understand the story, Vora wanted the shard. Apparently, for what it says here, she wanted to be with the moon. I'm guessing on this alternative, Vora is more of like, how to explain? More like a maniac that is really obsessed with the moon, in this case Io, and she wanted somehow to get close to Io. And in this particular, this particular reality, very much likely the stuff that happened on our reality didn't happen, thus her having that obsession. Now, it could be that, or she really wants to be as close as possible to her to kill her. Then obviously Corvus actually just liking the entire drama thing, but Castrian is actually there also to steal something, but it's not the same thing, which ends up to being great for Vora, because him doing the main event of the drama, which is him stealing the sword, which then leads us to think, okay, then this sword right here, is probably the sword that was meant to be given to Corvus. Now, I do have one little particular question. Castrian's already known to be a thief on this reality as well. Sure. But isn't Castrian supposed to have these handles that can transform into whatever shape he'd like, as he claims? So, with that all in mind, is this actually the sword that he stole? It wouldn't make a lot of sense now, would it? So unless he just stole the sword and then wanted to sell it, and this is just not that sword, I don't really particularly understand what we're talking about here, right? Unless it's like two different handles. The sword that I'm imagining that could be, if we find Corvus here somewhere over the rainbow. I was gonna say this sword, because this does seem to be a shattered sword, right? And it could be that.
Magnus. Corvus.
Which one is this? Which one is it? Exemplar?
Corvus.
No? There it is.
Corvus.
Crimson Crow. Even the name has crow in it. It could potentially be this sword. I mean, why not? In fact, since we're talking about it, let's take a look into the sword, shall we? Let's see how the sword looks from up close. It is a shattered sword, so I'm actually placing my bet that the sword that they're talking about is actually this one. And if I spectate it here, it's weird how they actually still put the Ceres sound there, but yep. That should be the sword. And there you go. Little crow in the back of the pistol and everything. There is one thing, out of all these skins and out of this sort of event that we're going through here, there's only one thing I got against the Vora skin, which is actually the voice.
Vora.
It just doesn't seem that menacing as we're all thinking.
Life's a masquerade, and everyone wears a mask.
It just feels like she's very nice on this skin.
Well, it's not like this is the real me. Please spend these coins. My victims can hear me rattle. Matches have certainly been made with far less. Huh? Bollocks.
I guess she could be considered a lunatic. She is a bit British, isn't she?
If one cannot breathe, one cannot eat. But perhaps we should still buy something.
Okay, they were talking about a language barrier, right? So, what's the voice that they were talking?
Sniper ahead of us. They're on our behinds. I mean, flanks. Stay with me. Go forth, steed.
I'm imagining this just American. I don't know. Is there like a hidden what's it called, accent here that I didn't notice? Maybe you guys can actually find it out. He does have a scar on his chest, which means that he tends to be somebody in battle, or just very unlucky and fell on something. His weapon, when it comes to evaluating the skin gameplay wise, the weapon is super weird for me for the fact that it has those candles there. I don't like them. I don't like the candles there. It makes the weapon so much more large and square. It's weird. The dagger, however, amazing. I say dagger, obviously you guys understand that it's supposed to be a broken sword, which is what I'm saying, that this could potentially be the sword that it's on, referenced here on the Rift. So could be that or not, we don't know. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for the new Chronicles Rift. I would call it a Chronicles 1.5 or something, right? No, that would mean that it would be something between the 1.1 and 2.0. Yeah, we're just gonna call it a rift. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to tell me down below if you enjoyed the new story, the new little bit of extra different alternative reality lore. And tell me down below what you think. That which language barrier are they talking about? Like, is it possible to be French or something? I don't know. Either way, thank you so much for watching again. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.